Is the sky falling in our industry? Okay, if you're on LinkedIn right now, you definitely think it is, or you're laughing at people who think it is. Take 0. All right, so forgive me, I'm at our studio in East Texas. We don't have all the soundproofing up yet, so you might hear a little echo in the background. We'll get it fixed eventually. All right, so I've gotten this question a lot. I can see it on posts on LinkedIn all over the place as it relates to artificial intelligence, agentic AI, large language models, MCP, et cetera, et cetera. Is the sky falling? People fall into one of two camps, okay? Right now, you've either got people who see the potential of agentic AI, and you have those who see the downside, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through the automation stack. I'm gonna go up through the stack and kind of tell you what the actual implications are. And what do I think? Is the sky actually falling? The answer is no, not even close. This is the most exciting time in my career. We're literally living in a period of time that's equivalent to when the transistor was invented. That's not hyperbole. Like, that's the actual real world impact. I was doing a webinar with Inductive Automation the other day. I don't know if this was in the pre-production, but Travis Cox and I were talking. We were talking about the potential of model context protocol and agentic AI, and I was saying, you know, this is our transistor. I mean, in my 25 years in my career, there's never been a breakthrough as big as large language models turning into large reasoning models, adding the model context protocol for agents to talk to software infrastructure and hardware infrastructure, and then agent to agent for agents to talk to one another. There has never been a more exciting time in this industry than right now. And I'm going to go through how it is I think jobs are going to be impacted. Your job is going to be impacted in this industry based on where you work. Okay? So first and foremost, some little foundational stuff. Digital transformation is a strategy for making data the primary commodity in your business. If you want to be more like Tesla, Tesla's a data company. They're not a car company. The car is a sensor that collects data. It happens to be a revenue stream, but it is not their long-term goal. The car is just a sensor. The data is the thing that's valuable, okay? And if you don't think that data is valuable, then you're going to have to answer some questions like, how did Google become Google then? If Google's entire business was based on collecting data about people to sell to advertisers, to get the right eyeballs in front of advertisements, Google did that through data. Okay, I mean, data was the goal, all right? Okay, data was the primary goal, all right? Tesla is a data company. Amazon gets you everything you want at the best price in 48 hours or less to your front door because they're a data company. They use data to predict what you're going to buy. Okay? Data is the commodity. All right? So that's first and foremost, that's what digital transformation is. Secondly, digital transformation is achieved by legacy companies through a series of 2 steps, big steps. Number 1, you become a smart business. Number 2, you plug into a digital supply chain. Becoming a smart business up until this period right now took about 3 to 5 years. You would connect, collect, store, analyze, visualize, find patterns, report, and solve. And I'm going to break those into connect, collect, store, okay? And then we're going to do analyze, visualize, and then we're going to do find patterns, report, and solve. We're going to break them into 3 categories, okay, for the purposes of this conversation. But the process of digitally transforming was about becoming a smart business, delivering on your digital strategy. Why do we want to make data the primary commodity in our business? And then we go through this process iteratively of connect, collect, store, analyze, visualize, find patterns, report, and solve. For those of you who wonder what analysis is an overarching conversion of data into information. Analysis includes modeling data, modeling information models, transforming data, formatting data, okay? So it includes all the data modeling, all the information modeling, and all the transformation of data. That's what analysis is. You could replace analysis with mostly data ops, but it's not all data ops, okay? All right, so most organizations have been spending 3 to 5 years to become a smart company before they can ever plug into a digital supply chain. And what is the digital supply chain? The digital supply chain is the Industry 4 supply chain. It is, I am not just connected to the links upstream and downstream for me. So I'm not connected just to my suppliers, the suppliers I know of, the ones I have relationships with. And I'm not just connected with my customers, the customers I sell to. I'm connected to all possible suppliers. I'm connected to all possible customers. And I'm connected to all of the other layers in the chain. Okay, the ones that I'm working with, the ones I'm not working with, the ones I could potentially be working with. That's digital supply chain. And if we're connected that way, then we can optimize the way that we go from raw material, the thing we bring out of the ground, the dirt in the water, and to the finished good. I don't know about you, but I drive around the world all the time as an engineer and as a sociologist. I'm driving around and constantly I am looking at all the things that humanity has created. And I'm like, holy crap, we do that. We do that from dirt and water. We created all of this from just dirt and water. Okay. The supply chain is how we do that. Okay. It's how we go from the raw material to all the things we see around us. Right. The digital supply chain is being connected into an ecosystem of all the raw material providers and all those who convert raw materials into subassemblies and the goods that we use to create finished products, and being connected to all the customers. All right. What is the impact of agentic AI? Well, the reality is, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, what I look at here is I think all I ever see are all the things that we never actually get to do. In our industry, we are constantly weighing return on investment. Do we do every project that we could do? As an engineer, ask yourself this. How many opportunities, how many ideas have you had? How many solutions has a customer should have done that they didn't do because they had to choose something more important and spend the money on the thing that was more important, and they had to leave the other thing? Everything is always a function of time and money, right? The opportunity here with agentic AI is to speed up how it is we deliver things. Okay, we speed them up so we can get to all the things that our customers aren't currently doing. The mindset that I think most people have is they think, how does this impact what I do right now? We never think about all the opportunities it's going to create. And that's what I see. So if you're a controls engineer, you're in instrumentation, you're in automation and instrumentation, or you're writing PLC programs, you're doing automation, you're doing motion control, you're writing PLC programs. How is your job going to change? You're installing sensors, okay? How is your job going to change? Well, the reality is that you're going to use agentic AI, agents connected to hardware and software, as a tool, as a force multiplier to speed up the process of installing and configuring sensors, okay? Getting them right, getting them configured correctly, making sure that the software, the firmware and stuff that we're working with is the correct versions. You're going to use agents to speed those processes up. So much of the things that you labor through, we're going to use agents running in background tasks to eliminate that job from us so that we can focus on the thing that's important, right? If you write PLC programs, you still need engineers to write PLC programs. You still need engineers to confirm all the documentation. You still need engineers to perform all the tests, and you still need all the engineers to do all the optimization. The difference is you're going to be using agents to help you do your job. You're going to be leveraging artificial intelligence to make you a better engineer. So if currently right now, based on my calculations, based on all the tests that I've been doing, okay, and I have been deep dive 5 weeks, I've been knee deep, okay, in unlocking the potential of agentic AI, okay? For me, I am gaining 100x return on my work, okay? I know that right now, the way that I am leveraging agents to do my development, I am maximizing it because I'm talking to a lot of people and I know that I'm doing things that other people haven't thought about yet. They'll get there, but I know that I'm using documentation strategies and design strategies, and I'm building project scaffolds for the agents to be able to work with so that I can minimize hallucinations, so that the things that the agents are doing, the outputs that the agents are giving me are more and more accurate. I'm at like 4 nines of reliability right now with all the work that agents do. How do I know that? The reason I know that is because I'm having to intervene on one line of code for every 1,000 lines that an agent is writing. So whether that code is a script that they're writing in Ignition, or whether that's raw fucking Python or Java or Node.js, I'm intervening on 1 out of 1,000 lines of code. I know that the tools that I've built and the strategies I am employing, because I've been testing these 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for 5 weeks, is I'm maximizing the output from the agents. I've already figured out that, hey, the number one issue that you have with agents hallucinating is if you have any conflicting data in the context, the agents are going to be less reliable in their response. So our job as a human being is to make sure that the data that agents are using, AI is using, large language models, large reasoning models, or agents, the data that they're getting is as reliable and non-overlapping as possible. All right. So I know that the potential on the high end is 100x, even more. Okay. All right. So the Agentic AI is a tool, and it's a tool that makes me better, and it's going to make you better. All right. So let's move up to the next level. All right. So if you're in automation, how is Agentic AI? Agentic AI is just going to speed up the process, but you're still going to be doing the work. It's a lever. You're going to be using agents to, think about all the times that you're working with a ProSoft card in a ControlLogix PLC, and you got to get that card configured once you've installed it. Okay, it doesn't matter what card it is, but you've got to go into the firmware. You got to go into the web server on that card, and you got to configure that card, right? I have seen engineers, literally a million times, I have seen engineers spend 8 hours, 2 full days getting a ProSoft card configured in a ControlLogix PLC. I've seen that a million times. Okay? Those days are gone. Right? Now imagine I install the card, the agent runs a background task, and then I interact with the agent to give it the information that it needs in order to configure the card. I built a SQL connector the other day. What I wanted to build a interface where I could connect to either a Postgres or MySQL database. I only had those 2 connectors. Those are the only 2 I wrote so far. And what I wanted to build basically a query front end, a really super high powered query front end that I could basically select any of my database connections, and then I could use an agent to write a series of potential queries that I might want to run against those schemas. So I was using an agent. I would connect it to the schema, and then an agent would run a background task, and it would go, oh, okay, based on this structure, here's a list of 20 queries you might be interested in. And so when I grabbed the dropdown, the agent had written into a JSON that was populating that dropdown a series of 20 queries I might be interested in. And if I grabbed a different schema, it would do the same thing. And then all I did was grab one of the queries, and then I changed the query. Then what I did was I grabbed the query, and then I interacted with the agent to say, I want you to change the query like this, X, Y, and Z. I did all this in UNS Studio. And the reason I built UNS Studio is because that platform doesn't exist yet. And it will. People will do this stuff. It'll be everywhere. 9 minutes. 9 minutes start to finish. Okay. Now, I could have labored through that for probably a day. The average, some developers might never get it built. Some developers might take a week. I could have labored through it for 4 to 8 hours to build that visualization. Okay. 9 minutes. So now I got to build the tool I needed. I didn't have to accept just what was available to me. I could build what was needed. That's what you're going to do. Okay, let's go move to that second level, which is so now you got connect, collect, store, but let's go store, analyze, visualize. That is, if you work in industry 4, you're doing connect, collect, store, analyze, visualize, right? This is going to apply to you. Assuming connect, collect was already done, that's what I was going to talk about, that impact. But let's say it's not done. Let's say you're doing the connect, collect, store, analyze, visualize. You are coming in with an IoT platform. You are connecting to hardware that's on the plant floor. You're learning what the data points are. You're building data structures. You're building information models. You're building visualized templates to visualize, you're writing some APIs, you're building some schemas in a database. And what you're really doing is you're building a function to turn the data in this business into some type of information, maybe a production dashboard, or maybe an interface for an operator to start a work order, end a work order, split a work order, update the schedule. We do this stuff all the time, right? If you do that job, okay, you're the ones who are freaking out the most. But if you do that job, how is your work going to change? Well, two things. You're going to use agents, just like those who work on the edge. You're going to use agents to speed up that process. Okay, so rather than you laboring through learning every single register and every tag reference and OPC item path and setting up all the connections, building spreadsheets and like creating these scaffolds in your brain so that you can go, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And those things take you weeks. You're going to do those in minutes with agents embedded into the platforms you work with. But here's the thing you're really going to do, okay? You're going to build agentic AI tools for your customers to use. Okay, you're going to create an instance of an MCP server in an IoT platform, and you're going to be writing MCP tools. And your customers are going to be using the agents that connect to those tools that you write. That is a new area in integration. Okay, architects are going to be designing infrastructure using agent-to-agent protocols. So right now, when we talk about horizontal and vertical scale, you're going to be going, oh, okay, how does agent-to-agent fit in here? Just like when we go, where do I use OPC and where do I use MQTT? Now you're going to be saying, okay, where do I use MCP and where do I use agent-to-agent? It's an opportunity. Okay, and what you're trading is all the stuff you labor through to get to the really important stuff. All right, let's go a level above that. Find patterns, report, and solve. That's machine learning and artificial intelligence. More money has been wasted in machine learning and artificial intelligence, find patterns, report, and solve, than in any other area of the digital transformation stack. So many of you, the promise of predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics, okay, has not been delivered on for the vast majority of people. Why? Because in most cases, the data is garbage, or you're hiring data scientists that don't understand manufacturing. They work on the IT side of the business and they don't talk to people on the OT. It's structural, but it's also technical. Agentic AI delivers on the promise of find patterns, reporting, and solving in real time. I saw somebody do a LinkedIn post. I don't know who it was, but you'll notice if you looked at one of the videos I did, I was showing you like what I think the future of visualizations are, that we're not going to build static visualizations. Visualizations are going to be built on the fly. Okay, there's going to be a definition for how a visualization should be structured. So that way the labels end up on the right place, the header's in the right place on a visualization, the color scheme is correct, all that stuff. There's going to be a definition, like a class definition. But the data that returns from the functions and the functions we use to put the data on the visualization is going to happen on the fly. Okay, agents are going to build those. Right now it takes 60 to 90 seconds to take a result set, a bunch of data, and have a visualization built on the fly, generally like in React. It's a lot of code. It takes a long time for it to run. As we get more and more data centers, as our compute power goes up, that's going to go from 60 seconds to 60 times per second. Okay, a visualization will be generated in 1 hertz. Okay, and you won't even know that the visualization is being built on the fly. Find patterns, report, and solve. A huge piece of us being able to find patterns in data, report the problem in the data, and solve it and visualize it, give it to people so that they can implement the solution. Agentic AI in that function of being able to build these visualizations on the fly, which I've showed you in previous videos and other people are posting about now, it helps us realize that. The fact is, the sky isn't falling. There's opportunity everywhere. There's opportunity everywhere. Okay, so I want to encourage you. If you see somebody who's, posting on LinkedIn or on YouTube that, hey, the fucking sky is falling and everybody in our industry is going to lose their job. I keep getting this. Where's the place for the integrator? And I'm thinking, if you have to ask me that question, then you're probably not a very good engineer. Like, if you can't see the art of the possible, okay? If you see agentic AI as a problem, I'm not saying there aren't downsides, and there are huge risks. I'm not saying there aren't risks, but I trust humanity is going to manage those risks, and so I don't worry about those things. Okay? I'm not worried about the risk. The reason why is because I understand that there are political pressures that will mitigate those risks. Okay, the doom and gloom, there's a reason why every post-apocalyptic film that came out in the 1970s and 1980s is not representative of what the world looks like in 2025. And it's because human intervention, human mitigation. Okay, we all collectively have a vested interest in not living in a post-apocalyptic world. And so therefore we will intervene over time. So I don't worry about those things. I see the potential, and it's everywhere. It's fucking everywhere. All right. Who should be worried, though? Here's what you should really do. Okay. You should take inventory and go, am I a person who really solves problems? Like, does the customer benefit operationally in terms of risk management, but also benefit financially from the things I build? Or are you the engineer who falls in the category of, I spend a lot of time over the first 18 months, the customer, you could hoodwink the customer for 18 months, right? You could sell them a bill of goods. I've seen it a million times. All the big consulting firms do this. The Deloittes and the Accentures, and, I've seen, not that Deloitte and Accenture haven't provided some value at some point, but they sell a lot of promises they never deliver on. Their whole business model is preying on the customer's ignorance. Okay, that's their entire business model. I've seen it a million times with my own eye. That's my opinion. Okay, they're in trouble. A lot of the engineers there are in trouble. But if you're an engineer who actually solves problems, like you're actually converting value for the customer, you have nothing to worry about. What should you be doing? Okay, what should you be doing? Well, you should be asking yourself, there's a new tool I should put in my toolbox. And I said this a couple of years ago, and I'm going to say it again. If you didn't heed the advice, January of 23, when I told my team, hey, ChatGPT came out in November of 22, and I said, hey, I have no idea where this is going, but I know it's going somewhere. Effective tomorrow, everyone will have a monitor to the left where they have an agent open all day long, and they're going to be interacting with a large language model all day, using ChatGPT all day. And your goal is to just build your fluency. Learn how it works. When you first start working with large language models, you treat it like Google. After a year, you're instructing it on who it is and what its expertise is, and you're putting in all the guardrails to make sure that it is giving you back the absolute best responses it possibly can, including it takes you a long time to figure out that if you want the agent to not give you something that's bullshit, tell it, if you are confused, ask me a question. You don't know that on day one. Once you build fluency, you know that. So I told my team, hey, you need to be building fluency. I told all of you, you should be building fluency. You need to be getting comfortable with large language models. Well, large language models turned into large reasoning models, doing advanced and deep reasoning. And you'll see in these little chats, it'll be like deep reasoning or really reason or really think about it. That's LRM, okay? That's a large reasoning model. That's kind of working through the problem rather than just predicting the next word, which is what a large language model does. It's really working through the problems. It's scaffolding the problem out and really trying to get to the correct answer. Large reasoning models and agents are, you'll notice if you work in, say, GitHub Copilot or Claude Code, the agent you're working with in Claude Code has many agents it's working with in the background. Okay, that's the advancement of LLM into LRM into agentic AI. And now you've got model context protocol and agent to agent. The reason we did the MCP workshop this past week is because we realized we have to start teaching fluency in the community right now. We got to do it now. So we're doing MCP. We did MCP this month. In September, we're doing REST API. So there's a whole API workshop on how to build APIs, likely using fast API, RESTful API services. Why do you need to know that? We didn't used to teach it. Why do you need to know it? Well, you need to know it because the MCP tools that you'll be building for customers are more times than not going to be mapped to API methods. There are people out there who are going, API methods are going away. No, they're not. There will be less methods. You're going to write a lot fewer methods. Why are you going to write a lot fewer methods? Because you don't need overlapping in the result sets. You can't have overlapping in the result sets. It'll confuse the agent. So we're doing RESTful API in September, and then in November, we're coming back and we're doing MCP Advanced and Agent to Agent. Okay, we'll be teaching that workshop. And you take those three together, and that's all the fluency everyone needs by the end of the year. All right, fluency is the key. Fluency is everything that we're doing right now is to drive fluency in the market. Okay, what do you need to be working on? You need to be working on your fluency. You need to be asking yourself, am I a problem solver who solves the customer problems? Does the customer benefit from me working on their project? If so, then Agentic AI is for me. I need those tools. Those tools will help me advance, will help me scale out the benefit I give to the customer. And the customer will have to, all the customer is going to do is grab new opportunities that they passed up over and over and over again because they had to focus all their efforts over here. It's not like the customer only, the 10 problems they solve in a year using capital dollars and using experts to come in and help optimize their business aren't the only 10 problems they have. They're the 10 problems they had to choose. They prioritized them and they said, yep, we can do that. We have money for that. We got money for that. We got money. We don't have money for all these. Tools help us speed up that process so that they can take that money and go, we're going to do these other ones too. That's how economies grow. That's how economies grow. All right. So if you're the person who solves problems, you got nothing to worry about. Who has to worry? Okay. Technical writers. Okay, if you're a technical writer, if your job is just documentation, you're not going to have a job. Okay, you're not going to do that. Okay, there are going to be some people who supervise the documentation that agents generate, but documentation is not a thing people are going to do anymore. A human being is not even remotely as good at writing documentation as an agent is. Okay, even the best technical writer isn't as good as the worst agent. That job's going away. Okay. Another one is if you don't create value. If you're the one and I don't know what the number is. I'm going to do a study on this. We're going to try and determine how big, how representative is this group. There are a lot of people whose entire career is, 1 6-month stint after another. They get to another project 6 months. It takes a customer 6 months or 12 months to figure out that they're not providing any value, and they move on to the next one because they got engineer in their title and they got a bunch of projects in their past. It didn't matter that they didn't deliver. If you are a person who struggles to deliver on the expectations of the customer, you are going to get exposed. Okay, you have something to worry about. Okay, if you find yourself, if you're the engineer who doesn't have enough use for all the customers who want you, you are going to benefit. If you are the engineer who struggles to figure out what your next project is because you don't know whether you're going to deliver in 6 to 8 months, you're going to get exposed. The fact is, you probably shouldn't be an engineer. But in the pre-agent market, there was a place for you. They needed a body. They sold some hours that they had to sell. They want to sell. They know the customer's not going to figure it out for 8 to 12 months. They can roll the dice and hope to train you up. But if you're not a person who can ever get there and deliver, you're going to struggle. If you're a technical writer, you're going to struggle. Okay? If you are a person who specializes in deterministic development, this, then this, then this, then this, and I don't ever think about how this fits into one, this is just one part of a much larger whole, you're going to struggle. I don't know if there's no place for you. I'm just going to say you're going to struggle. So work on fluency. Ask yourself, what type of engineer are you? And then ask this question. What are all the opportunities? How will this tool make me better? And how can I make this tool better? Because the relationship between AIs and humans is symbiotic. It is not mutually exclusive. It is symbiotic. Okay? All the things I've built over the last 5 weeks using agents They couldn't do it without me. And I couldn't have done it without them. And that is the definition of symbiosis. All right, with that, like, subscribe, comment down below, and tell all your friends the sky is not falling. I'll see you in the next one.